Hello, my name is Gabby, and I'm going to be looking today at Alex's development and examining some of the major events that have helped to shape her throughout her life. When Alex's mother was pregnant with her, the family lost their home due to a hurricane. This exposed Alex to very high levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and that has been shown to be a prenatal teratogen which can lead to preterm deliveries, indicating low birth weight among other health concerns and possible infant mortality, as well as low birth weight even in full-term babies. Low birth weight, which is attributed to limited access to proper nutrients, something that can happen depending on the amount of aid an area receives after a natural disaster, can have an epigenetic effect on babies in utero. A baby born in these conditions may compensate in response by overeating, which can lead to obesity, and as we know, that comes with a handful of other adverse lifelong health effects. As indicated in a 2014 study, it was found that children who were born to a mother affected by natural disasters, in this case hurricanes in specific, demonstrated a reduction in math and reading scores. A student's likelihood of being classified as special education students also increased between 10 and 20% for those who were exposed to any natural disaster. During Alex's infancy, it was found that she was meeting some of the normal, typical developmental milestones a bit late. One study found that at age 8, children were found to have higher IQs if they met those milestones early, but by age 26, the only statistically significant difference was in reading competency. By their 50s, there was very little cognitive difference between all of these subjects. Delays in speech development were cited as having a greater impact on those reading scores, as well as on the likelihood of an adult to attain higher education. Now, children grow in every physiological aspect at different speeds, but perhaps a lag in childhood or even adulthood may even out as the speed of synaptogenesis tapers off in late adulthood. Erikson labeled this life stage basic trust versus mistrust, so it's likely that the attachments formed during this period were more important to her development than the timeliness in which she reached these milestones. During Alex's early childhood, she was diagnosed with ADHD. Studies have shown that individuals with ADHD are 3 times more likely to drop out or fail to finish high school, and more than 6 times more likely not to seek higher education. A child who struggles through school, especially those without a formal diagnosis and treatment plan, may internalize their struggles as a sign of their own incompetence, leading to feelings of low self-efficacy. In this stage of industry versus inferiority, that's the primary task in Erikson's life stage theory, during middle childhood, if she's internalizing and blaming herself for the struggles that she's having, she's not going to feel very industrious and may develop a sense of inferiority instead. Individuals with ADHD have been found to be more likely to have difficulties with substance abuse and criminality. It also indicates that they're 6 times more likely to be fired from jobs and experience unemployment, causing financial distress and changing the socioeconomic status of that person. Both of these facts can lead to a very difficult socio-emotional path. During Alex's adolescence, those teenage years, drugs were found in her locker, and it was discovered that she was experimenting with substances and alcohol. Now, since your brain is constantly trying to maintain homeostasis, Alex's would be in a constant battle against the substances she used, trying to counteract the effects of those drugs by reacting in the opposite way. Neurologists believe that addiction, or somebody's risk of addiction, is about 50% genetics, and that leaves the other 50% of influence to those social means, as with Bronfenbrenner's ecological developmental systems approach. So half of it is entirely dedicated to genetics, and everything else makes up a part of the other half. Now, women's bodies have a higher ratio of fat and therefore a lower blood supply to dilute alcohol in the body. This means that it's going to affect Alex a lot more. She's going to get drunker faster, stay drunker longer, and be more drunk than her male counterparts for drinking the same amount. She will attempt to surround herself with peers who reflect her own priorities, and this will perpetuate the cycle. Adolescence is driven by conflict between identity versus role confusion. According to Erikson, So Alex's social influence during this time played a huge role in her development of her self-identity. In early adulthood, her emerging adulthood, Alex did make the decision to drop out of college. Her being female, women have been shown to be more likely to end up in low-paying, high-demand jobs. But studies indicate that the majority of college dropouts, 88% to be exact, are able to achieve at least an average socioeconomic status. However, without a formal education and without finding exactly what path she really wants to be on in her life, she may get stuck in what's called a state of ruminative moratorium, leaving Alex feeling overwhelmed with all of her possibilities, perhaps unable to even make a choice because she feels overwhelmed and doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life, and that can leave her with a sense of low self-efficacy. Within the 88% we just looked at of college dropouts with the average socioeconomic status, income differences still remained within $5,000, but job satisfaction and mental health were shown to increase with income. Now, Alex being female, she's more likely to develop disorders such as anxiety or depression, and that can even be exacerbated by the fact that most high-paying jobs which do not require degrees are typically male-dominated. So achieving a comfortable, financially secure future could very well have been possibly out of reach for her entirely. During Alex's middle adulthood, she divorced her husband of 20 years. That change from 2 incomes to 1 can make for a stark decrease in one's ability to support themselves. Since Alex did not graduate from college, she is more likely to be affected by a larger income difference. If the process of divorce is full of conflict, if she finds herself unable to detach, or if she's unable to engage socially or find a romantic partner, she may have had more difficulty adjusting and suffered from depression or anxiety. In middle age, cognitive abilities, particularly that fluid intelligence, begins declining. This means that learning new processes can be more difficult, such as tasks which had previously been her husband's responsibilities. Studies show that social resources are valuable in the ease of adjustment after a divorce. Erikson's life stage in middle adulthood also emphasizes that generativity is the primary task versus stagnation. So participating in social or generative activities like these would have aided in her adjustment post-divorce. In Alex's later adulthood, she's found herself raising her grandchildren because the parents were unable to do so. Now that she's going to be essentially parenting all over again, her stress levels will undoubtedly be much higher. Studies show that while stress levels are not really affected by one's social support, stress effects are significantly improved by the presence of social networks, either friends and family, or formal support systems, which are governed and often paid for. Her perceived and enacted support, in other words, the support that she thinks she has and the support that she partakes in, will also play a role in her ability to manage her stress without having lasting effects from it. If Alex feels as though she is alone in this daunting endeavor, or chooses not to participate in some of those support groups or family-centered outreaches, stress may have more lasting effects for her. Facing retirement, she may feel her sense of optimism for her afternoon years dwindle. During this life stage, Erik explains that integrity is the goal versus despair. Her determination between the two will be dependent on her attitude towards the situation. This is my list of references. Got a lot of good information from those. I hope you've enjoyed my presentation, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.